What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for April 28th, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. And Howie did it. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. Going into the draft, I think as fans, there were really two guys we wanted, Jalen Carter and Bijan Robinson. I think of the two, we felt that there was a better shot of getting Bijan, to be completely honest. And Falcons were where everybody sort of thought he may fall. And I thought the belief was that possibly the Eagles might be able to jump ahead. But they didn't. Falcons took Bijan at 7. Or, I'm sorry, took him at 8. And then at that point, you kind of knew, all right, what are the Bears going to do? And the Bears have been trading. They had the number 1 pick at one point. They've been trading. So Howie called him up, said, hey, here's a 4th round pick. Let's swap. And they got Jalen Carter. Great pick. Many believed he was the best player in the draft. And then he had the off the field issues with the accident and things like that. I mean, I'll get more into it at the end of the weekend after the draft. I'm going to do a Back to the Future draft recap. But great pick at number 9. And then they followed it up with Nolan Smith at 30, who a lot of mock drafts had him going at 10 to the Eagles in the first place. Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network basically, I read his Twitter, he could not believe that the Eagles walked away after the first round with Carter and Nolan Smith. So overall, an A-plus day on the first day, A-plus grade on the first day for Howie Roseman. And it's just bolsters that defense. And, I mean, here's the obligatory Nick Sirianni dad joke, but he always talks about a dog mentality. You could potentially have 4 Georgia Bulldogs on starting on defense. So, thank you. I'll be here all week. But today they have a second round pick and a 3rd round pick. They swapped with the Cardinals, which kind of, this story was very, very odd. It got swept under the rug. But apparently there was some tampering with Arizona and Jonathan Gannon. And, I mean, Nick Sirianni was asked about it, and he's like, I see what you're trying to say. No, Gannon was 100% focused on the Super Bowl. But now, kind of the way that second half of the Super Bowl, and I'm not trying to start a conspiracy theory. It's a positive day. We had a good first round. But did that guy, who now is the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, put his 100% into the Super Bowl knowing he was going to get the top job in Arizona as soon as the Super Bowl was over? Now it makes sense, though, of why he never came back on the plane from the Super Bowl. That's because he had already had it worked out with Arizona. So, I don't know. They self-reported. Somehow the NFL handled it. They swapped picks. The Eagles got a pick now for next year. And it's just kind of shady. But again, we want to focus on the positive. Great first day of the draft for Howie Roseman and the Eagles. They have a 2nd and a 3rd round pick today and then 2 7ths tomorrow. But don't be surprised if there's some wheeling and dealing, because they have a shitload of 5th round picks that are compensatory for next year. And I can't see Howie just standing pat with those picks. But we'll see. You never know. Maybe Howie does what Howie wants. And until he proves me wrong, it's Howie's world and we're just living in it. All right. Good win for the Phils yesterday, 1-0. Cody Clemens doubled in Nick Castellanos in the 2nd inning. And then Strom in the bullpen shut down the Mariners. Kimbrel got his 397th save. They're finally at 500. They're hitting the road for a 6-game trip, 3 in Houston and 3 in L.A. Two good measuring stick series for them. I think you want to hope for a split at worst. The Dodgers are not necessarily the Dodgers this year. The Astros don't look as tough either in the early going. So good measuring stick, good chance to see where this team is and go from there. So looking forward to that with the draft. It's going to be a great sports weekend. We know the Sixers now will play the Celtics, which we've always thought all along, but thank you to Trae Young for extending that series and pushing that game to Monday. Haven't heard much of an update on Joe yet, and I know some people are thinking it's a bad thing, but I don't know. I mean, why give out information if you don't have to, is sort of the way I look at it. Hopefully that's the way the Sixers are looking at it. There is no media availability today for anybody to really even ask. So I don't know. I mean, I think people are making a big deal about it. The last we heard was about having to wear the brace early in the series and whatnot. But I can't see how he's not going to play. And I feel as though obviously he's going to be limited, but it has always going to come down to the role player guys and the other guys on the team stepping up, and I don't think that changes. It's just more imperative now because Joe's banged up. And I mean, we've seen so many times guys in the playoffs banged up have heroic performances. Obviously the most famous is Willis Reed, but just like I'm going to do the draft recap over the weekend, there will be a Sixers playoff preview coming out before Monday. Going to be a busy, busy day for me, but looking forward to it because this is fun. All right, so we're going to stick with the draft theme today and the Howie Roseman magic. We're going to go back to 2016, but before we go back to April 28th, 2016, let's go back maybe a month and a half before that. So the Eagles finished up that season, and with a 7-9 record, it was Chip Kelly's last year. Got the 13th pick in the draft. Obviously, there was the whole coach search. They brought in Dougie P. And Howie got his job back, as Jason Kelce famously said. He got out of the office and came out a changed man, which yesterday showed that, yes, Howie is a changed man from where he was. But anyway, so Howie was left to clean up Chip Kelly's mess. So March 9th, was able to send Byron Maxwell and Kiko Alonso to the Dolphins for the 8th pick in the draft. Obviously, they had Sam Bradford as a quarterback, so they needed a quarterback of the future because Sam Bradford at that point was more of just like, not necessarily a bust, but like for a Heisman winner, number 1 pick overall, he should have been better. So, move 1. Okay, 8th was not going to get you because that year in the draft, there were 2 guys. There was Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, who were the consensus top 2 quarterbacks that really were going to make the difference in your team. Obviously, somebody else went to that team in Texas that was not Jared Goff or Carson Wentz, but it is what it is. And by the way, Cowboys fans were pissed off on Twitter just at the whole way the Eagles draft went. They were just like, Jesus Christ, Howie, like it's ridiculous. Like he's not even playing chess right now. Everybody else is playing checkers. He's invented a new game, and nobody's even caught up to chess yet. But anyway, back to 2016. So then about a week or 8 days before the draft, they traded the number 8 pick and their 2016 third and fourth round picks to Cleveland. Or I'm sorry, their first round pick then in 2017 and then a 2018 second round pick. So they swapped first round picks. They gave up their third and fourth rounders in the 2016 draft, and then their 2017 first round, 2018 second round for the number 2 overall pick, and then obviously we took Carson Wentz. So on this day in 2016, the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz, number 2 overall, to be the quarterback of the future. We all know how that worked out, 5 tumultuous seasons. However, I don't feel they win the Super Bowl without Carson Wentz, who was playing at an MVP level before he got hurt. And I honestly don't think he was ever the same after that injury. So it was... And then by the way, more Howie Roseman magic. Right before the season, after they said they were going to keep Carson Wentz on ice and let him learn for a year, they said, nah, we're going to make Carson Wentz a starter. And then was fortunate enough in this, was able to trade Sam Bradford to Minnesota when Teddy Bridgewater got hurt for a first-round pick. So the first-round pick that you traded for Carson Wentz, you had ultimately got back. It's just Howie's just insane. But back to Wentz. Obviously, we know he's injury-prone. Didn't do that bad with the Eagles overall. 16,800 yards, almost 63% of his passes completed, 113 touchdowns, 50 interceptions. But he just had that weak mindset. As much as everybody wanted him to be a leader, he was not that guy. When they drafted Jalen Hurts in 2020, he, instead of thriving on it and saying, okay, let's do it, and embracing it, he kind of was a little baby about it. And obviously that's what ultimately led him to being thrown out. And obviously we've seen what he's done since he left. So, and again, how he was able to turn that into like a first round pick. Like, so, I don't know what he does to these people, like whether he hypnotizes them, but like somehow he just does crazy things. But on this day in 2016, after pulling some witchcraft, Howie Roseman and the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz #2 overall in 2016. Continuing with the draft spotlight as we're winding down the month. Today we're going to go back and we're going to spotlight Jessie Small, the Georgia native, which got a lot of Georgia ties in the podcast today. Went to Eastern Kentucky. He was a second-round pick, number 49 overall in 1989. Linebacker. He started 23 games for the Eagles, 8 overall. He had 3.5 sacks in 1990, but he did play a lot on that 91 defense. So we always kind of, I don't want to say he was a bust. It's just he was overshadowed by guys like Byron Evans and Seth Joyner and things like that. But Jessie Small also was, which, by the way, I don't think I even mentioned his name, but Jessie Small is our draft pick spotlight today. He is in the Eastern Kentucky Hall of Fame. He still holds their single-season sack record. He did play a little bit for the Arizona Cardinals and then in the CFL. What I think is pretty cool is he does have his PhD in organizational leadership and change management. He works a lot with youth and is like a mentor and really giving back to the community. So decent football career, but one of those guys, we've talked a lot about these guys over the past month, that has really excelled and started trying to change from the outside of the NFL, use his platform for good. So Jessie Small, second-round draft pick, number 49 overall back in 1989, was a member of the greatest defense ever, that 1991 Eagles team. And yeah, I'm going to stop saying I feel or I think, because that 1991 team was the greatest of all time until you see what this defense has the potential that they have now to do. Woo-wee! But on this day, back in 2016, the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz. I cannot wait for the draft tonight to see what Howie has in store. We're basically Georgia North. But the good thing, and I will say the last thing I'll do, because I don't want to get too much into this because I'm going to do the draft recap, is it's going to help, and they mentioned this in their press conference, the fact that these guys are coming in, especially a guy like Carter, who has some off-the-field things he's working through. Having the familiarity of some of his former teammates is going to be huge. And, I mean, they both looked excited to be here. I know we're excited. Welcome, Jalen Carter. Welcome, Nolan Smith. Can't wait to see you guys play live next year. It's going to be a great year. Go Phils over the Astros tonight. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. Howie, teach me the game, man. Teach me the game. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Friday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.